Hey, Ryan Fellman here with the Path to Mainlanders podcast, and today we are going to talk about one of the most common questions that I get asked, and that is how to start writing. Now, first, let's ask, why should you start writing? So, my life really began to improve when I started writing, and I've been writing online now for about 4 years. I've written on social media through Twitter and Instagram. I've written on my personal blog. I've written multiple ebooks and paperback books. Even just beyond all of that, writing has been instrumental in getting to know who I am and changing my life in a lot of profound ways. So, Pat Conroy says writing is the only way I have to explain my own life to myself. It's kind of amazing, you don't realize how much writing can help you. It seems like something that is only meant for certain professions or certain jobs, but I'll argue that everybody should write. It's a way where you can bring order to the chaos of your thoughts. And I know what you're thinking. You're not good at writing yet. That's okay. I can help. That's what this is for. My most effective tip when you start writing is to never start with a blank page. And one foolproof method to avoid the dreaded blank page is to write about a quote that inspired you. I actually stole this idea from Ryan Holiday. He has a book called The Daily Stoic, and every page in that book starts with a quote. And if you don't know that book, the idea is you read one page a day, and there's a quote from a famous philosopher, whether it's Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, or like Epictetus, and then he kind of writes his own thoughts on that quote. So a lot of times I'll start with a quote and just share my thoughts about it. You can write about what you did today and how it affected your day, which is actually a really powerful journaling exercise, because what happens is you start realizing the effects that all your little choices have throughout the day. And by doing this, you start understanding how little changes and little habits are either helping or hindering your progress in your life. You could write about your ideal life, which was my first blog post that I ever wrote, actually under a different website. But it gave me a vision of what I wanted to work towards. So, my advice to you: get started today, and you'll improve tomorrow. In time, writing will feel more natural, and instead of struggling to find the words, you'll struggle to find the time to write all the ideas that you have inside your head. So, if you utilize the tips and the advice that I'm going to share with you right now, you'll find that maintaining the habit of writing and journaling is not nearly as difficult as you thought. You simply need to get pointed in the right direction. So, why should you write every day? There is so much power in the habit of writing, but most people downplay this because they struggle to write. Anyone can write, just like anyone can go to the gym, or anyone can learn to ride a bike, or even ask out that pretty girl or boy. I mean, boys can be pretty too, right? The trick to learning to write, like riding a bicycle, is practice, which is why you need to start writing every day. Write 500 words a day, every day, and you will become a better writer. A lot of my original writing came from Twitter, and Twitter's neat because you get instant feedback. Whereas writing a book or even a blog post can take a lot of time and effort, tweets are simple and they're quick. It's kind of like the fast food of the writing world. So if you can tweet, you can write. Tweet a solid thread, and you've got the bare bones of a blog post. And then that blog post could turn into a chapter for your upcoming book. And then you can take your best blog posts and put them all together in a cohesive flow, and you've got the makings of your first book. In fact, that's actually how my first book, Reclaim Your Manhood, started out. And it all started with the habit of writing. So there's a reason why writing was a chapter in my book, too. Writing's given my life purpose and direction. So, what are some of the benefits of writing? Writing can help you get more organized with your day. Writing can help you conquer your goals in a systematic manner. It's a powerful tool that you can use to sell products or a service that you offer. Writing can save your sanity. Trust me. I don't know how I would have gotten through my divorce if I didn't start writing. Writing can teach you who you truly are. Writing can help you become a better communicator, and help you share the thoughts in your head. Every morning or the night before, get in the habit of writing. Set a time where you're going to sit down and write. It doesn't have to be hours. It could be 5 minutes. I mean, at the bare minimum, write down 3 tasks that you plan to achieve that day. And then under that, write down the steps necessary to accomplish these tasks. And last but most importantly, write down your motivation to get these tasks done. Will they lead to a more meaningful goal? Will they offer peace of mind? Whatever your reasons, make them very clear to remind yourself why you're working so hard and diligently. Let's end this section with a challenge here. Let's get some writing prompts. So, what are your biggest problems you are facing right now? What daily tasks can you do today to conquer these problems? Make a list of these daily tasks and consult them every day. And be sure to knock out a couple of these daily. Martin Luther says, if you want to change the world, pick up your pen and write. Okay, so the second most common question I get about writing is, what do you write about every day? You need to create a journal routine with a time and a place where you're just going to sit down and contemplate your thoughts and these ideas. So at the end of the day, I like to grab my journal and I'll pen and sit down and share what I learned on the day. These are the 3 key points that I try to hit on almost every day. Sometimes I'll just do more free form ideas, but all right, so these 3 key points. Number 1, what did I learn today? Number 2, what worked well today? And number 3, what am I doing that needs improvement? If you can turn this into a daily habit, a part of your routine, you will see tremendous improvement over the next few months. I mean, how often do you find yourself saying the phrase, I don't know? People ask you what your goals are. I don't know. They ask you what your ideal life looks like. I don't know. They ask you the meaning of life. I don't know. If these questions bring anxiety and fear, then it's time that you delve into the unknown and search for these answers within. Writing is the key to giving meaning to your life. It'll unlock your path that will lead to a more fulfilling life. The average person is drifting mindlessly through life. If you seek a life of excellence, then you need to take the necessary steps to ensure you remain on the right path. So what should you write about? The absolute first thing you must make abundantly clear is to define your intention with this habit. This will be your motivation and your inspiration to continue your new habit. This isn't something that you're going to want to do every day. You're going to have to remind yourself and challenge yourself on the days where you're not feeling it. The first blog post that I wrote was about my vision for my ideal life. So if you want to create your ideal life, the first step is to define exactly what that means to you. So take the time right now. You can pause this episode and come back to it and sit down and contemplate what you actually want out of life. You may say you know what you want, but you're most likely way too vague about what your ideal life is. Be very specific about what it is you want and then you'll be more likely to end up with your real ideal life. Have fun with this. Feel free to dream big. You might surprise yourself with what you actually want. A lot of people, rather than living up to their own desires, they're actually spending most of their time and effort living up to the expectations of somebody else's idea for you. And that's the purpose of this whole exercise. Now, tomorrow, the next day, write about what you need to do to make your ideal life a reality. I've had a lot of success in my life, but oftentimes I found that I wasn't always living an authentic life. Part of the reason for this was I was so focused on being financially successful, I forgot to consider whether what I was doing was even what I wanted. Now, don't get me wrong, becoming financially secure affords many freedoms and opportunities that greatly benefited my life. The issue isn't being focused on success. The issue is being so singular with that focus that my life began to lose balance. This might be an issue you're facing right now, and many people are. They have this emptiness in their life, a void they struggle to fill. Most people end up filling that void with terrible vices and mind-numbing habits. Your life doesn't have to be like that. And writing can help you deal with some of these struggles and these issues that you're facing. So another good exercise is to take a quote that you found fascinating and expand on the idea. We touched on this earlier, but what is it you liked about it? How is it relevant or interesting to your life? How can this quote improve you or the life of those you want to share it with? This is one of the many ways to combat the dreaded blank page. So as you begin to write more, you'll realize that the blank page is not as much of a problem as people make it out to be. The real problem with writing is finishing up all these half-baked ideas and partial books that you start. Please don't look at the documents on my laptop. It's kind of hard to deal with, actually. But most people can write. Few people can finish a polished product. But don't let any of that deter you, though. Even simply the art of writing is highly beneficial to your life. Invest in some nice-looking journals if you want to stay organized. Get a few of them. I like the Moleskine notebooks. I think they're like $12 a piece. They're pretty cheap and they're durable enough. And one page seems to be enough for most days. I got one journal that's sole purpose is only for tracking my daily routine. In fact, on the first page, I have a list of all the activities I like to do each day. Why do I do this? Because some days you're simply off. Maybe you drank too much the night before. Trying to channel your inner Hemingway. Maybe you ate junk food and now you're dealing with brain fog. So by consulting your list of daily routines, you can remind yourself what you need to do to be productive. All right, so part of my routine, for example, chug water first thing in the morning. I even keep it next to my bed, so I make sure I see that first. I've been reading The Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. It's pretty easy. Pick up and read a page or so. And then I like to work on whatever book I'm working on, or at least write something. Some days I don't necessarily write with a purpose. I just start putting some ideas down on paper and deal with it later. Actually, I don't write so much on paper anymore. A lot of it goes into Evernote, where you can organize things better and find things and search for things. Then I'll either write an email or I'll schedule and write tomorrow's tweets. And lately I've been doing a lot more running. I go to the gym still, but I've been running about 6 times a week, over 30 miles lately per week. So you'll change up your routine, of course. You'll finish projects, you'll start new ones, you'll take on different challenges, but it provides a nice baseline just to lend some much needed focus to your chaotic life. Life is a constant battle of order and chaos. So in this notebook, just make sure you track your progress and write out ideas to better your routines. Mark the date at the top of each page. Write down. I like to write down my weight. If it's something you're tracking, whether you're losing weight or putting muscle on, it's neat to see the habits you do and how it affects that. Write about what you eat. Write about its effects on you, and over time you'll start noticing this overarching image will kind of take shape that maybe it didn't make sense looking at it from day to day, but when you start writing over the course of time, you notice these trends. Write about new ideas or systems that you tried out. Contemplate the effects they had on you. Were they successful? Were they worth doing? Were they not worth doing? Reflect on their effects and whether you should continue to keep doing these things. How often should you do them and when? The possibilities for your journals are endless, and it'll begin to give your life a new direction. Why did I want to become a writer? I get this question too in various forms. So it's going back maybe 10 years or so, but over the course of a lot of drunken nights sitting alone in my bachelor pad in my older single days, I would come home from the bar and I'd find myself watching Californication. And this show, it's it's centered on the self-destruction of a struggling writer, Hank Moody, played by David Duchovny. He's kind of loosely based on Charles Bukowski. And one of the early episodes, they even call him Bukowski as a kind of a one-off quip. But he was this man who kind of had it all. Girls were constantly falling into his hands. He had a successful book that got turned into this Hollywood rom-com, which he hated. And he drove this really cool older Porsche 964. So when you're a guy in your early 20s, he's kind of living the dream. Anyway, I'm almost ashamed to admit that I related to this character. He had girls coming and going, his mild alcoholism, just the the only thing I was lacking, aside from his hair, I guess, was the hit novel. So one day I quit wishing and I started writing. And now, one quick word of advice here, because I used to do this: don't call yourself an aspiring writer. Why? Are you gonna go under the knife of an aspiring surgeon? No. Would anyone buy from an aspiring writer? No. Why would they? If you write consistently, then you're a writer. So don't let anyone tell you different, and don't let that negative self-talk get in your head. All right, so Californication romanticizes writing in a very unrealistic way. And most people do romanticize writing. The truth about writing is you're going to sit down in a quiet place and hammer out a few hundred words every day, or maybe even thousands on good days. Occasionally, some of these words will strike a chord. It is a painful and arduous process, albeit it's pretty rewarding. So there's another throwaway line where Hank is talking to a class of, I think they're high school students, high school or college. And they're college students. And he's telling them they shouldn't become writers. And he says, being a writer is like having homework every night for the rest of your life. Hank is he's constantly drinking himself into oblivion, even as he's writing, which I know everyone would say that's what Hemingway did, right? He says, he gets quoted with, write drunk, edit sober. Want to know a secret? Hemingway never said that. Want to know another secret? Hemingway didn't write drunk. If you want to be a good writer, you'll find that alcohol is not the so-called lubricant for your typewriter. Don't believe me? Go get plastered and look at your text in the following morning. You'll wake up with no clue what you were rambling on and on about. There'll be typos everywhere, and you're not even going to like the points that you were making. You might even learn some truths about yourself that you were not ready to hear. So, anyway, moving on from that awkwardness, let's just wrap this up with the 30-day challenge. So, starting today, in the next 30 days, every day, I challenge you to write. Don't focus so much on it's got to be perfect grammar, it's got to be so many words. Just sit down and, write out a couple lines. And you'll find once you get something on the paper, it's actually harder to stop than it is to keep going. So every day, sit down, write, and by the end of it, look at how much better your writing's gotten over the course of 30 days. And if you really want to challenge yourself, publish it. That's where things get real. That's where things get fun. It's not the easiest thing to do. It's probably the hardest part about writing. And you can always write under a pseudonym or a fake name. PTM is not my Christian name. But that can help you kind of get over the nerves of writing online. The challenge with that is then you got to figure out a way to get people to read your stuff. But there's ways to do that. So you can write online, on a blog, on your own website, on social media. Twitter and Instagram are actually pretty good spots to start writing, and you'll get a lot of feedback, which is helpful. So 30 days, make it happen. Hey, this is Ryan Fellman with Path to Manliness, and thank you for listening to this. And if you made it all the way through this, do me a favor and leave a rating and a review for the show and share it with your friends. It helps the channel grow, and it encourages me to keep creating more content. So thanks for listening, as always.